Coming from the City of Angels, from the basement of Studio True, we bring to you the William Vinegar Show. So here he is, William Vinegar.
To understand why Nolan Wells' family and their legal team lack confidence in the local authorities, we must look directly at the timeline of July 4th. You know, the boat carrying Nolan and his companions left the mainland at 9:56 and departed from Horn Island to return at home at 4:31. Now, the Friends' official statement to investigators claimed that Nolan was last seen alive on the island approximately 3 p.m., alleging he chose to stay behind to talk to a girl. Yet when their boat began experiencing mechanical failures on a return trip, you know, an emergency call was made to sea tow lines at roughly 4:30. So I'm going to play you guys a transcript of it. So, little pause. And here we go.
And then west by 88 degrees by 46.79.
Right, it looks like you're on Horn Island, correct? Are you
Yes,
on
we were
Horn
at Horn
Island?
Island. Yes.
All right, is the boat sinking or you have it aground?
We were sinking, yes.
Is it a... How many adults and children on board?
No, there's no children.
This is the first time me
So,
listening to it.
Is there anybody on board? How
Sorry.
many adults, sir? That was the question. Hello, can you hear me?
You know, this is the first major fracture in the narrative. If Nolan was left behind on the island 10 miles out at 3 p.m., why did his companions explicitly tell the emergency dispatchers at 4:30 that everybody is on board?
Hello, sir?
Hello.
Yep, I just need you to answer these questions so I can get you over to the captain.
Okay.
How many
what's
adults
going
on board?
There are 0 adults on board.
There's nobody on board the boat?
No. Nobody
right.
here is over the age of 21.
Furthermore, the family has retained independent audio engineers to review the distress call. And while the internet sleuths claim to hear the background voices uttering phrases like, "Is he dead?" or "Wake up," these phrases remain legally unconfirmed, and I don't have those. The real issue here isn't the internet speculation. You know, it's why local law enforcement rushed to rule out foul play, while these massive documented verbal contradictions sat on emergency tapes completely unaddressed. Be right back. And you know, when we look at the physical evidence, you know, there's so many contradictions and anomalies. You know, it shifts from suspicious to horrifying. Attorney Ben Crump and the Wells family commissioned independent autopsy. Unlike the state's rush to judgment, the independent pathologist officially ruled the cause and manner of the death as undetermined pending investigation. You know, the second autopsy uncovered physical trauma completely ignored in police briefings. Notable red discoloration on the back of Nolan's head, but the most alarming revelation is what was missing. You know, the independent forensic team received Nolan's body to perform their examination, and they find out his throat tissue has been entirely removed, gone, removed by the state medical examiner during the initial procedure. I believe in any investigation involving potential strangulation or what's that word? Affiliate, asphyxiation. The throat tissue and hyoid bone are the centerpiece of the proof. And the state has now bound the case over to a grand jury, effectively sealing the official autopsy results away from the public and away from Nolan's own mother. The legal team is now forced to aggressively petition the state to locate and examine the missing throat tissue. You know, I'm using a teleprompter, you guys. So, Riverside FM be messing up, but let me get back on subject. That's another tangent. I'm sorry. This physical scrubbing mirrors what happens to Nolan's digital footprint. When Nolan's phone was finally returned to his mother, Christine Wansley, it was conspicuously empty. There were no photos, no videos, and entirely wiped histories across his 2 Snapchat accounts. An absolute anomaly for an 18-year-old athlete documenting a July 4th holiday. Weird, right? Because the phone was left in the possession of others before being handed over, the family legal team was issued a sweeping subpoenas to Meta, Snapchat, TikTok, and GPS tracking as the GPS tracking app Live 360. They were seeking the raw server data, the IP addresses, the deleted chats, and timestamps to reconstruct the electronic timeline that someone went into great length to erase. This includes investigating the video filmed shortly before Nolan disappeared, where I believe that he was with his friends, where he can be heard in a verbal altercation demanding, give me my freaking phone. Back. And you know, as Nolan Wells' family fights for basic facts, you know, they aren't just fighting the Mississippi legal system, because we know about the Mississippi legal system. They're fighting an online ecosystem of digital commentators designed to muddy the waters. Specifically, the right-wing darling commentator Brandon Tatum, or Officer Tatum like he likes to be called. The darling of the right. You know, he published extensive video coverage on this case, explicitly telling his audience to stop interjecting race and claiming the public should feel relieved that this doesn't feel like a brutal murder. And Tatum went as far as to host a sit-down interview with one of the white companions from the boat, a young man named Tan, framing him as a grieving, innocent bystander. Tatum then publicly criticized Nolan's parents. This asshole criticized the parents who just had lost a son for stating they did not recognize this individual. And what if they didn't, Tatum? Fucking ass. Tatum's defense relies on a fundamentally flawed premise that because there were thousands of people and hundreds of boats on Horn Island that day, it is entirely normal for a group of friends to split up and accidentally leave a teenager behind. Let's break down that logic. If a young man leaves his wallet, his keys, and his cell phone on a boat, and his friends do not drive away, they leave him stranded on an island miles from shore and then tell the emergency operators that everyone is accounted for, And I just, I'll let you guys listen to the logs. Tatum intentionally ignores the deleted Snapchat histories, ignores the missing throat tissue, and ignores the direct contradictions on a C-told tape. He isolates variables to present a narrative of accidental drowning. Acting as a defense attorney for a local police department that hasn't even finished a transparent investigation. And it's highly profitable for him. It's a highly profitable media grift, weaponizing a veneer of objectivity to validate the system and silence a grieving black family. I'm back. What we are witnessing in the Nolan Wells case is not a breakdown of Mississippi justice system. I got a text message through the phone, sorry. It is a system operating exactly as it is designed to in the Deep South. Systematic bias doesn't always look like the loud, overt act of injustice. Modern suppression is bureaucratic, or however you pronounce it. It's a paper wall. By immediately sealing the autopsy, invoking the grand jury process, and withholding documents, the state ensures that months will pass in absolute silence. It is a strategy of attrition. They're waiting out the media cycles. They are waiting for the hashtags to stop trending, hoping that the public outrage will fade so they can quietly close the file. They forced the grieving mother to hire a national civil rights attorney, crowdsource ocean tide data, and subpoena multi-billion-dollar tech companies just to find out how her son died. Be right back. Back, you guys, and this is going to close out the show, but just let me say, we cannot allow attrition to win. The contradictions on the C-told tape are real. The red discoloration on Nolan's head is real. The missing throat tissue is a matter of medical record. Brandon Tatum, that asshole, can look the other way for clicks. And the Jackson County Sheriff's Department can hide behind a sealed grand jury. But we will not stop demanding a full federal investigation. But, we know who's in charge of the DOJ, so. But we're going to keep demanding transparency, keep monitoring the updates from the local outlets like WLOX, and do not let Mississippi, that state, bury the memory of Nolan Wells in the dark. Thank you for listening to the William Vinegar Show. Stay vigilant, and let's keep looking for the truth.